financial statement audit this year. It is our first year serving the county, and we're pleased to do so. Today I want to briefly review the results of the audit with you, and just kind of point out a couple things to you and bring a couple things to your attention. Okay. So the audit process generally starts kind of in the March time frame. The goal, the deadline is in August. Drop dead date September 30th. Submission to the data collection warehouse that the federal government has. Certainly all those applicable deadlines were met. So in looking at your audit, Boyer and Ritter looks at a couple different areas, and there's really 3 reports that we really focus on that are the big reports. The first is your financial statement document. It's about 90 pages long. There is, and we issue an opinion on that. Pleased to report today that the first opinion of this, the opinion really looks at whether or not your financial statements are accurately reported in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The governments have they follow the government accounting standards. So we issue our opinion. We come out here. We basically, from a process standpoint, we look at the various ways that the county collects revenues and spends money, and we look at all the internal controls, around those processes, as well as the record keeping, to make sure that everything's getting into the right bucket and that you have proper segregation of duties and internal controls throughout the county to make sure everything that is intended to happen with regard to the funds happens. So what we do is we come in, we evaluate your internal controls, and then as your various sections of the county finish their financial reporting for the year, we perform our substantive audit on your cash and investments, your revenues and expenses, and we go through and test those amounts and figures and processes to ensure that we're comfortable with what we're seeing. And importantly is also the process whereby they're collecting that data and ultimately reporting it to you on a routine basis. So we're looking at that process to make sure that we're comfortable with what we're seeing.
And you were.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. So that's the subject of these 3 reports. The first report is our opinion on the financial statements. Pleased to report that Boyer and Ritter issues a clean opinion. They call it an unqualified or unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is which would definitely be be in the interest of the public. Certainly you guys as overseeing the county, the rating agency, and any bond underwriters. That's what they're kind of expecting to see. So congratulations to you and to Bob and his staff and Jamie overseeing all the processes. The second report speaks to, it's a government auditing standards report, and what we do there, because you're required to have a compliance audit, so you spend about $7.4 million on an annual basis. You're required to have a single audit done, a compliance audit done, and we're required to do that under government auditing standards. And in that, we go through, like I said, we evaluate the internal controls, and we look at whether or not there are internal control deficiencies that would rise to the level of material weaknesses, and that would have to be reported in that report. And then we also look at big picture compliance, financial reporting level compliance, and would need to report anything there. Pleased to report there you also get a clean bill of health. We were very happy with the processes that we encountered through the audit process. Third opinion has to do with your federal programs, where we have to go through and evaluate the compliance of your federal programs. We go through on a rotating basis, pull out a couple programs, test them, and we do it on a rotating basis every year. So we're kind of like covering all the programs. This year we looked at the CDBG programs through the Redevelopment Authority, the child enforcement programs, child support enforcement programs, as well as the medical assistance programs. We issued an opinion there with, and everything was clear on all three of those programs with the exception of the CDBG program had a finding and had a modification for a program oversight. There was a contract that hadn't, you know, you guys have a relationship with the redevelopment authority, and so the program, the contract, we had to get that up to date. So therefore, we had a finding on that. But for that, I mean, that actually happened while, you know, when we pointed it out, they're like, oh man, we, you know, say we got this. They got it fixed up right away. But beyond that, you get a clean bill of health on all three of those programs. So that's very good news to report. The other element of that report has to do with the internal controls over compliance. And that, you know, in there we kind of evaluate not just whether was the county compliant, but do they have the processes and the systems in place to ensure, you know, that they were compliant this year and, you know, presumably compliant into the future, you know, absent, you know, turnover in staff, et cetera. And we found there that we didn't have any significant issues beyond the subrecipient monitoring issue that you had with the redevelopment authority that I had already noticed. So those are the three reports, and minus the subrecipient monitoring piece, you know, you got high grades all the way through it. The audit from a process standpoint went very smooth. We found the staff to be very helpful. All the way throughout the organization. You know, when we asked, they were very attentive, very responsive to the audit process. So we were very pleased with that. So a couple other observations. A couple other observations we had. You know, strong from a county standpoint, from a fiscal standpoint, strong general fund reserves. You know, that's a very good thing that you're continuing to fund. From a retirement standpoint. You know, you have a net pension liability of about $26 million. That's basically the state of affairs, and that's modest compared to a lot of what we see out there in the public sector arena. So those are the two comments that I would have there. And then the final thing I would mention.
Just ask, do you find the reserve in the range that you see?
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
it's not excessive. It's not.
No, I don't think so. Especially from where understanding the life cycle of where, you know, what you guys have gone through in the last, I would say, decade. I don't see it as, you know, over the top. But in my mind, you know, certainly if you guys would ever go to borrow money for a project or something like that, those reserves are going to help save you money. You may choose to invest some of it, but it will save you money from from a bond rating agency. That's the kind of stuff that they look for.
Good.
But I'm sure there's metrics out there in terms of, you know, hey, where your reserve is at in relation to your expenditures and how that stacks up with counties across the Commonwealth. But I don't have that particular information. The only other piece I would mention would be there's a management letter issued that we discussed with management and Jamie, and they've kind of are working on that and kind of working through the items there. But these were not items that we determined to be, you know, like the material weakness level.
It had to do with the preparation in advance of the audit. Is that?
Okay, so I think there were.
Oh, I'm sorry. Or is this the domestic relations issue?
No, there was. Hold on a second. Let me.
Maybe
Speak
I'm
very
these things
specifically. One had to do with some of the reconciliations, the timely reconciliations of the accounts in one of the departments. It wasn't countywide, and so it was more of a timeliness issue. So, you know, when we start this process in March, we have counties that are complete their audit, and and we're submitting CAFRs by June. But this is November. We're sitting here today, so there's a little bit of a delay in the timeliness of the turnaround of some of the departments.
That's what I meant by the prep, having things ready for
you
to hand off to you the moment you're ready for it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then the other issue had to do with a one bank account that had not made it into the financial statements. Now it's an agency level fund, meaning that you're just simply holding the funds, so you have an asset and you have a liability. It's not affecting your general funds, but in the roll-up, as you look at in the roll-up of accounts, it wasn't initially included in there. And we actually ended up putting a past adjustments for the exclusion of that account in these statements. but it's a fiduciary account, meaning that you're just holding those funds.
Jared?
Yes? Oh.
No, I'd just like to emphasize that working with Bob and Angel and their crew, it was a real pleasure working with them. They respond to our requests timely and always provide good information for us. So.
And Bob, anything?
No, it was for the first year. It's always tough in the first year, and I think it went fairly smooth, considering there was a lot of, the first year is always a tough year. We have to learn about the firm, and the firm learns about us, but I think things will go much smoother going forward. Not that it was a problem this year, it was a lot of information gathering the first year. And Angel was very instrumental in pulling a lot of those pieces together.
Yes, I have several questions.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't receive a copy of the management letter. As one of the executives that is responsible, I'd like a copy.
It's in that pack, it's in there.
Okay, that's the second thing then. I just got this and have not had time to review it in full.
Okay.
And I don't have any contact information like a phone number, an email, so if you have business cards, I'd like those.
Sure.
So I can send you my list of comments when I get them together. Next thing is, I have a specific question. Were any of the accounts in excess of what is insured by Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation?
That's a disclosure that we will put in here, in your financial statements. And I would probably direct you to page... Sorry? Yeah, that's on page 39 of your financial statements. We kind of go through and disclose that. So generally what you see in governments is you're going to have funds that are going to be in excess of the FDIC reserves just because the governments hold significant funds. But Act 72 references the fact that there's collateralization requirements for those funds over that $250,000, $500,000 threshold.
We do have some that exceed that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
But I guess the point, the point is that that's generally expected and it's very common, but that it's over the 250, meaning that you can't spread your money around to all the various banks to have it be under the FDIC. I mean, you can, but it's probably an administrative challenge. But generally what organizations do is you will get additional collateralization from the bank. So to the extent that you're over the $250,000, the banks have to put up additional collateral for those public funds. So there's laws regarding the custodianship or the custody of public funds that goes beyond, the FDIC insurance.
I bring that up only because that was a finding in previous audits from the previous auditor.
Okay.
And I wanted to see if it was still going on or if it has been corrected. He did not see it as something that should be looked at as normal.
I think the finding, if I recall, Bob can step in if I get this wrong, but I think the finding was that it was held at a credit union which doesn't have the same collateralization as a commercial bank. So we have dozens of accounts that are over $250,000, obviously, $83 million operation, but none are beyond the collateralization because that's required. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So then the last question that I have has to deal with the pension. In numerous seminars that I've been to, I have been told that the only good pension is one that's 100% funded. So anything less than that is not acceptable. And I hear you saying something to the contrary, which is right.
I don't know, so it'd be great. It'd be great if a pension was fully funded. I almost never see it. We do a lot of work in the public arena, and it's just not, honestly, it's just not reality. So ideally, yeah, it'd be great if the pension was fully funded. But at the same time, you guys have a, minimum obligation that your actuaries come up with regard to how you fund it. They tell you the amounts that you're supposed to deposit every year, and that was my comment with regard to the funding levels. But I mean, I'm not an actuary with regard to how that minimum obligation is determined. But you have to rely on your actuaries to say what's the appropriate amount for us to put into the pension every year.
And we're making those payments.
Yes, yes.
Well,
But I think you go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
if we hit 100%, we can no longer collect reimbursement from the agencies.
I never heard that before.
That's the law. You can only collect reimbursement if you're not 100% from the agencies. There are several counties that are over 100%, they can collect nothing back from the agencies. That's the state will not reimburse.
Because you can't be overfunded.
You can't
The
be
agency
overfunded.
won't help you overfund.
Right. Until you get to that point, once you hit 100%, the agencies, you will get no reimbursement back toward the annual contribution.
To my knowledge, Pennsylvania, I think there are a couple of northern border counties that are darn close to being 100% funded. When the Marcellus money came along,
Yeah.
Tioga for one, I think is close.
Okay.
But they're in a different situation.
Sure. We just generally we deal with a lot of public school districts and some other counties and other governments. We just very seldom. I've never seen where it's where the pensions are overfunded. And it'd be ideally it'd be nice to have that, but to turn around today and say we're going to take this money and put that all in there, you've eliminated any kind of reserves that you have for future utilization, because you can never get that money. You can't get a loan back from the pension fund. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other questions. Does anybody else have any?
No, I would just like to say that it would appear from where I sit that some of the decisions that we have made have continued to hold us in good financial position in relationship to the audit.
I agree with that.
All right.
So,
Anything over there?
so Jamie has my card, my cell phone's on there. Please feel free
May I
to.
please have a card?
These are yours.
Okay.
I was just passing them across. He gave them to me.
Do you guys want one as well?
Yes.
There's a couple over here.
Bob.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
This is Jared, and
That's
you're
me.
Matt,
That's myself, yeah.
Correct.
I'm Jerry, Matt.
so I can't have your card.
No, he's Matt.
Okay,
There you go.
all right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.